Welcome back to another episode of the Cast Patrol podcast. We're privileged today to be joined by another special guest. In this week's episode, we have Zac Purton. We have the best jockey in the world, in my opinion, top 5 guaranteed, 5-time Hong Kong Jockey Premiership champion and winner of 38 Group 1 races. Mr. Zac Purton, welcome to the show. And how are we today?
I'm pretty good. Yeah, pleasure's all mine. Thanks for having me.
No worries.
Yeah, we'll appreciate your time, Zac. We obviously know how busy you are. So we'll get straight into it. How did you get into the racing industry? How did it all start?
Yeah, so from as far as I can remember, I've always had an interest in horses. Whenever I was at my friends' houses and they had a horse in the paddock, I'd always want to go and try and get on it. And then I was always good at sports. And then when I was about 14, I was, everyone else was growing and I was staying the runt that I am. And my parents took me along to a jockey seminar. I was living at Coffs Harbour at the time, so we went to Kempsey, which was an hour and a half away. And it meant I could have the day off school, so of course I jumped at that. Went down there. I was the smallest and lightest kid. And they placed me with a trainer at Coffs Harbour, and I went from there. So from 14 and a half, I walked into the stable and then started to pursue my career.
Wow. Was it love at first sight with the horses as soon as you sort of jumped on one? It was like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? Or did you have any other ambitions sort of at that age?
The only other thing I can ever remember wanting to be is a truck driver. I like
a truck driver.
Bulldog that on the front. So I don't know. I don't know how that would have gone for me, but I think I made the right decision, right move. It's worked out pretty well.
It has, yeah. And was it natural as well, like jumping on for the first time and then eventually starting your career so early on?
Yeah, it was. I always had that love and that affinity for the horses and had a good sense of balance. And I remember when I was first learning to ride and first riding that a lot of people mentioned to my parents that they thought I had really good balance. They hadn't seen a kid with the balance that I had on a horse before. So I obviously just had that natural ability right from the start, and that certainly helped.
Zac, how did racing in Sha Tin come about?
So my favourite jockey in Hong Kong, in Australia, was a jockey called Corey Brown. And I used to, when I was riding around the Northern Rivers of New South Wales, I used to watch him ride in Sydney, of course. And then he moved to Hong Kong. So then on a Sunday, I'd watch him, and that's basically where my interest for the racing here come from and started to grow. And then when I was in Brisbane, I won the Premiership there as an apprentice. So I got approached to come to Hong Kong then, but wisely enough, I knew I wasn't quite ready for it. So I knocked it back, waited a few more years until I felt like I would be able to handle this place and then make the move.
Yeah, obviously you've been very successful in Hong Kong, Zac, for the last 10, 15 years that you've been there. Is the plan to come back to Australia at some stage, or what's sort of the plan moving forward? Are you happy to stay in Hong Kong and dominate?
Australia's home. Australia's always going to be home, although I feel like Hong Kong is also home. This is probably the longest place I've actually ever lived in the same place. So I'm very grounded and very secure and safe here and very comfortable. But we are from Australia and we do want to go back home at some stage, whether that's going to be at the end of this season, the end of the following season, or whenever it's going to be. I'm not quite sure. We don't have an exact date on it yet. But I will be moving back to Sydney. That's where our house is, and that's where my wife is from.
Yeah, for sure. Like, obviously, you've been there for a while now, and you say it's your second home. Have you picked up the Cantonese language yet? Are you fluent?
It's a very difficult language. When I first came, I was getting lessons once a week, every week for the first 6 months. And after 6 months, I went to a dinner, and there was 12 other people there, and I asked them how to say something, and they started arguing amongst each other on how to say it. And I said, well, I don't know it. I said, how am I ever going to learn it? So I just gave up there.
100%. Well, I mean, if it's hard enough that they can't learn it, why can you? But have you got a favourite phrase to say that you've picked up, maybe around some trainers giving you a spray or something like that?
There's a lot of swear words. You certainly learn them first. But no, just whenever I was in a taxi previously, I have a driver now which drives me around, but in the taxis, you always used to say fighty, which just means faster. So I was always telling them to go faster.
Do you say it to your horses as well?
Yeah, I say things to the horses.
What would you say, Zac's, the difference between the Australian racing and racing in Hong Kong? Like, would you?
Yeah, so it's quite similar because we have a lot of administrators from Australia that is here, and the way the horses are trained there suits the way the horses are trained here. So it's a lot about speed, but our racing is very tight. I would say here our races are run more genuinely, a little bit faster.
Yeah.
The ground race is firmer, and the racing is it's a little bit more competitive, I would say. So, and then because the handicapping system is so tight as well, that you really can't afford to make too many mistakes in a race to be able to win. So every time you go out there, you just got to make sure you nail it and get it right.
When you first got over the Shartin, it would have been tough, like by yourself, getting off the plane. Did anyone help you, any trainers or jockeys when you first arrived?
Yeah, so it was a weird one. I'd never been to Hong Kong before. So I might have had a bit of a false sense of what it might have been like. But I remember the first day I got here, they basically dumped me in the apartment and said, all right, go to the track the next day. And I walked down there and I walked out and I just didn't recognise anyone. I didn't know anyone. All I seen was a heap of Chinese people walking around. I thought, wow, what have I done here? But luckily for me, a couple of the trainers sort of took me under their wing and took me to the trainer's stand. And then I started to meet the Western trainers that were there and got my way around the local trainers. And, it wasn't easy. It was really, really difficult. They do things a bit differently now as time goes on. Obviously, any business evolves, and now they have a manager to help the jockey out for the first 2 or 3 months. And his job also is to take you around and introduce you to everyone. So it's a little bit more comforting now. You get a little bit more help and support than when I first got here and was just dropped in the ocean. But I suppose you got to learn to swim, and I worked that out.
Yeah. And you mentioned how competitive the racing is in Hong Kong. Talk us through the Premiership battle between you and Moreira over the last 5 years or so. How's that been for you?
So every Premiership has been different. Obviously, you have a different support base with the trainers that might come on board or drop you as time goes on. You have a different group of horses that you're riding, different race conditions, different physical ailments. Obviously, Joao has got some injuries he's been dealing with recently, as have I. So it's been difficult for both of us. But yeah, it's each season brings a new set of challenges. He's a phenomenal rider. He does a lot of things really, really well. He's very hard to beat. So it hasn't been easy to go toe to toe with him, but I've enjoyed the challenge, and we sit quite even in what we've been able to achieve.
Do you think the battle between you and João Moreira has been more competitive than between Douglas Whyte and yourself when you first sort of started at Shartin?
Yeah, I think it has. The battle with Douglas Whyte probably didn't last too long. I spent a number of years building my support base up and getting myself in a position where I was able to challenge him for the championship. The year before I won it, I felt like I was going to beat him. And at that time, I rode the fastest 50 or fastest 100 winners in Hong Kong history, so I hit the ground running. Yep. I know the year before I won it, I was in front and we were going head-to-head with about 6 weeks to go, and I got kidney stones. So I ended up in hospital and then operated well. And anyway, I went from being basically level with him to I come back and I was about 7 or 8 winners behind him, and there was like 4 meetings left.
Yeah.
And he beat me. And he came out and he said, I enjoy the challenge, blah, blah, blah. And I said, how's that a challenge? Like, you make guidelines. That's not a challenge. So I took it on myself to let him know I was going to take him down the next season. And that's when I come out and I rode the fastest 50 or 100 winners in Hong Kong history at that time. And I was off and gone. And then we start in the middle of September. And I think the middle of October, Moreira arrived that season. So then he come on board. Then he was my main competitor, not Douglas Whyte. So I really only had maybe 12 or 18 months of going head-to-head with him until he was well back in the rearview mirror.
I love that. How many more years until you reckon Joao, you push him off and he stops riding?
Well, it's an interesting one, right? So he's obviously not here at the moment. He's got a couple of he's got a couple of injuries he's battling, but also some mental demons as well.
Yeah.
And his wife apparently doesn't want to come back to Hong Kong. She wants to stay. So whether he's prepared to come back here without his wife and family, that's what he's got to weigh up. So, there is a chance I may not ride against him on a regular basis again. But then again, he might bite the bullet and come back. I'm not sure. So he's got to work that out.
Yeah, well, is there any other jockeys in the world that you'd like to race against? I know you've mentioned before that you liked racing against Ryan Moore, but is there anyone else that you'd be wanting to see come across?
Yeah, so it suits me with them not being here, right? It's a bit easier, but if I had to compile a list of top riders around the world that would be great to go to head-to-head with every week. Obviously, you've got Ryan Moore, you have Dettori, Sumion, Huey Bowman, James MacDonald, Jamie Carr's obviously been doing really well. The American jockeys, I sort of don't know too much about. They have a different style of racing over there, so might be a little bit different for them here. The Ortiz brothers over there do really well. So if you can put all of them on the same racetrack every week, like they do in Formula One, it would be very interesting.
Would you be number one pole?
I'd like to think so.
I think so.
And I floated it to the Jockey Club actually to get the Netflix series or producers to come to Hong Kong and create that same series on what we have here, because we have the same two tracks every week. We have the same pool of jockeys, same pool of trainers, same horses racing around. So I thought it would be, of all the places in the world, it would be the best place to have that type of documentary. Whereas in Australia, you've got too many different tracks and states and trainers and horses, and it's just all over the joint. But here it's so confined that I thought it would work. But our CEO is not too keen on getting it done. So
we'd watch it 100% if it ever came to fruition.
That's a great idea. Love that.
Yeah, all the fly on the wall, behind the scenes stuff. Yeah, that'd be very interesting. For sure.
Yeah,
like all the banter in the jockey room and that. Is there much
I'm
banter?
The banter out. So.
Are you just psyching them all out before
You're
the race?
A bit of a pest, are you?
Yeah, there's a bit of that. Yeah, it's just the Aussie way of life, right? So we love that.
How do they take it over there, the jockeys? They're a big fan. They enjoy it?
To begin with, they didn't know how to take it, but now they've got you like to have a little bit of a laugh. But I did work out one thing with Moreira. Every time I tried to G him up and mentally psych him out, he'd come out and ride like winners. So I stopped.
So rule number one, don't piss off Moreira before the race.
Don't poke the bear.
Yeah.
Well, you've had plenty of wins, obviously, in your career, Zac. Is there a win that stands out above the rest?
So there's probably not one that stands out. There are a few highlights and great moments. If you ask about which horse may have propelled me to the next level here in Hong Kong, I'd have to say Little Bridge. Yeah. So he was a race horse that come to Hong Kong, and I seen him at track work one morning, and I liked the look of him, so I asked the trainer if I could ride him, and fortunately I was able to get that ride. And he was a phenomenal horse. I won 6 of his first 7 starts on him.
Wow.
And then obviously we went to Royal Ascot and we won the King Stand Stakes. Yep. We went to Japan after that. We raced competitively here in Hong Kong. He was not the same horse around the corner as he was up the straight. He was a great horse up the straight. So I didn't quite get to the Group 1 level here in Hong Kong, although he was Group 1 placed. Yeah. But Royal Ascot obviously put him on the pedestal that he deserved to be on. But he was the horse that really helped put me into that level and give the other owners and trainers confidence to give me a chance on the better horses.
And what a horse he was. Speaking of good horses, do you ever look at the odds of the horses you're riding every Saturday? Because for most people chasing their tail on a Saturday night in Australia, they turn to Sha Tin to win back some of their pennies. And you seem to be riding 80% of the favourites at every card.
Yeah, I think that's just because of the support I've got, right? Yeah. So to put that into balance and context, and the other jockeys obviously complain about that all the time as well and say, I just ride the favourites. But I say, whatever I call them. But I said, let's see what price it starts next time. So a horse might start $15, $20, $25, and then I get on it, it's $4. Or it might be $10, $15, $20, and I get on it, $2. And then the next start when I'm not riding it, when one of these other Muppets get back on it, it's 20 to 1. It's the price is sort of reflective, with the support that I have. So it's easy for people to say, oh, you just ride all the favourites, but they're actually not looking at the form properly. There are so many people in Australia, here in Hong Kong, that just go, all right, Zach's on that horse, I'm going to bet on it.
Zach's on it, we're going to back it. Just on that, Zach, I think the other week, Beauty Internal, there's just a few clips going around saying that it's probably been the sickest beat. Did you just want to, or how did you see the run? Like, did you just want to walk us through that race?
Yeah, so obviously it was disappointing, but I knew at the 900 metre mark I was in a spot of bother because I was stuck, just going nowhere.
Yeah.
And I would have liked to have been able to push out, but I had a horse outside being a horse 3 wide. So if I had to just pushed out, I would have caused interference, got suspended, maybe brought down. So it wasn't really an option at that stage. And I had Matthew Chadwick outside the horse that was in front of me on the second favourite. And he and the horse in front of me lost 5 lengths from the rest of the horses up in front of them.
Yeah.
And Chadwick was just staying back, and he said afterwards he stayed back to keep me in the pocket. So he wasn't trying to win the race. He was just trying to make sure I could win.
Oh wow. Really?
And that's one of the other things that I have to battle here all the time. I've always got a target on my back. A lot of the jockeys, unfortunately, think if they beat me, then they can win the race, but they forget that they might beat me, but they're costing themselves a race as well.
Yeah.
They're not talented enough to be able to do both at the same time. Obviously, when I come into the straight, the horse in front of me appeared as if it was going to shift out.
Yeah.
And he did shift out slightly, so I went to take the run inside him. But no sooner did he shift out, he shifted back in and tied me up on the fence. And my horse, having his second start, got a little bit frightened from the fence and shifted out a touch. If I was on an older horse that raced through, I would have been able to get through that inside run without clipping heels to start with. Yeah. And then if I had that momentum earlier, I would have still been able to win the race. And then obviously after that, I thought I had a wall of horses in front of me, so I come out trying to find some clear room. And it was one mistake after another. It was not a good feel.
It was sickening.
Not good to watch.
It wasn't a good watch, and I can't imagine where you were going.
Should have won by the length.
But he's obviously he's a horse of that looks to be of ability. Where do you think he'll get to?
Listen, I don't like to get too carried away with horses because they let you down more than they reach the heights that you think they're going to. But he obviously showed there that, you know, not only has he got ability, he's got a good turn of foot, but he's very brave. That last run that he was trying to take where there was no room at all, he was trying to get there. So for also having his second start, I thought it was a very good effort. And I don't think 1,200 is his right distance either. I think as he gets up over 1,500 metres, 1,600 metres, we're going to see an even better horse. And that's going to help him at the start as well because he doesn't have that speed early. Yeah. He's sort of getting in awkward positions because he can't put himself in the right spot.
Speaking of good horses, if Group 1 winners, we touched on it before, 38 in your career. How do you prepare yourself for the big day when you know there's Group 1s coming up?
Yeah, so it's exciting. That's why we do it, right? Because we want to compete at the top and we want to win the big races. You know, unfortunately here in Hong Kong, we only have 12 Group 1 races a season, so it's really, really hard to win them. And because there's a lot of them are set weight races, it's even harder if you're not on the right horse. Yeah. You know, it's even more difficult. So it's been a battle. It's been tough. But I've had a lot of success around the world. I've had Group 1 winners in Australia, Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan, Macau, the UK. Yeah. So it's been pretty good. Can't complain.
Do you have any superstitions like before a race that you have to do every race day?
I try not to have them, no, because I think once you start thinking like that, then that's when the demons start to take over. So I prefer not to do anything. I have a fairly solid routine on race day, but that's just because I'm losing weight, doing form. You know, just the timeline leading into a meeting is fairly consistent. But I don't have any superstitions, no.
And when you win these Group 1s like you do, is there a particular way that you celebrate a successful day in the saddle?
Yeah, it depends. It depends who's here and what race it is and whatever else. So, you know, quite often I just go home to the family. Sunday night's pretty much family night for us. and a quiet night after having a busy week, with going for lunch or dinner with the owners and having to sweat and go to the races on a Wednesday night and do all those other things. By the time we get to Sunday, it's my wife's chance to sit down at the table and have me to herself. So mostly it's just family, but I do enjoy having a beer and a champagne and celebrating those moments with friends, because that's why you do it, right? You have to enjoy it.
You got to have that balance for sure.
Yep.
Well, you mentioned earlier, Zach, about Little Bridge. Would you say he was your favourite horse to ride, Little Bridge?
Yeah, I've had different favourite horses over the time. At that time, he was my favourite. More recently, obviously, Beauty Generation was my favourite. At the moment, California Spang was my favourite. So one thing they have in common is that they're very good horses, right? So I grew up with horses because they're in the best races. But I like them because of the characters they had and the way they raced. And just to ride them, I just enjoyed riding them. So, and hopefully I'm going to enjoy riding Beauty Eternal going forward.
Well, speaking of, Beauty Generation, talk us through that relationship, because you've obviously won a lot of races with Beauty Generation. He was just a star of Hong Kong. How was that?
He was unassuming in a way, because I rode him as a 4-year-old here through the Derby series, and he was just not quite there at that time. He was a little bit one-paced, and we kept trying to behind, and he wanted to travel a little bit too keen, and then he wouldn't finish his races off. And I sort of kept saying to the owner, maybe he's just a Group 3 horse, that's about it. And then I could ride him one day, and it was a wet track, and they asked Eric Lung, he had a lightweight from the outside gate, and they said, just go forward and lead on him. And they did that, and he kept running. And then they're like, horse likes leading. So that's what we did from then on. He just turned into the beast.
In Australia, a meat pie is an essential sporting snack, whether that be at the footy, the races, or whatever. In Hong Kong, what's sort of the staple sporting snack fans enjoy there?
We don't have too many sporting things going on, right? So I don't know what they have, like at a footy stadium or something like that. But obviously, dim sum is high up on the list here. They all love that. Darks the grouse. We all love that. They're just like rice and pork and all that sort of stuff.
So apart from yourself, we probably think you're the best jockey in the world, but who would you say are the top 3 right now?
And
if you had to order them.
And rank him. Show some balls, Zach. Come on.
It's hard to rank him. Obviously, J-Mac's destroying everyone in Australia at the moment. He's getting all the opportunities, but he's making all the right decisions, and it's easy. So, he's obviously right up there. Ryan Moore, and then you throw in the other ones that I spoke about. Frankie, Huey, Sumion, so and Moreira. So he's not riding at the moment, so we'll put him on the bench, but he's in that mix.
I know things have gone a bit back and forth between you and J-Mac recently. All the quotes been clipped from you. But what do you think of these commentators of jockey that say winning Cox Plate and Cups in Australia is worth more than getting money overseas, like in your situation?
Yeah, I see a lot of jockeys now that are retired, and I don't want to mention names because I don't want to be disrespectful to them, but you probably already know who they are, right? Yeah. They're always races, and they're always budging off people and doing like either radio gigs or tipping gigs or things like that, and they've got nothing. They've got no money at all.
Yeah.
They won Cox Plays, they won Melbourne Cups, they won trophies, and I guarantee you, I said trophies do not put food on the table. Once you retire, they mean jack shit. So, if you're going to think about life after racing and what that is going to look like, you need money in the bank. And not everything is about money. Of course, we do things because we want to achieve things, we want to achieve goals, we want to be successful, and that is also very important. But if you're looking at it from a business aspect, then you've got to think about what your life is going to look like in 10, 15, 20 years' time.
Yeah, personally, I think it's crazy that these Aussie jockeys are not going to Hong Kong. Yeah. Like, the money's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, there's 2 reasons they don't, right? Like, one is they're not confident they're good enough, and for the vast majority of them, they aren't. So understand why they don't want to come up here, and it is a different lifestyle. But if you're in a position like J-Mac where you are good enough and you are going to get support, you are going to do well, it just doesn't make sense to stay in Australia.
100%, yeah.
That's why you don't want to come back. He just wants to stay.
Yeah, I don't want to take car.
Have you ever? Oh, what's the biggest spray you've copped, Zach, during your
I
time
must
as
say,
a jockey?
I don't cop too many sprays. I think because they know it doesn't really affect me, right? I just laugh it off and play. And but if I've copped a ride up, and I know I've slaughtered it, I'll just come back in and say, "Oh, I won't be watching that replay," or it's just something like that. I don't try to make excuses. It is what it is. Everyone can see, so you got to own it and move on.
Is there some best racing advice that someone's ever given you, whether that be when you started out in Brisbane or even to today, still getting advice? I doubt it though.
Yeah, so no, the best piece of advice I ever got was from Gerald Ryan, and I was speaking to him at the time. I think I was in Sydney at the time, and I asked him who he thought the best jockey in Australia was, and he said it's very simple. He said it's the one that makes the least amount of mistakes. And as soon as he said that, it dawned on me and it all clicked. And I thought, all right, if I want to be the best, I'm just going to make the least amount of mistakes. And it doesn't just apply to being a jockey. It applies in AFL, rugby league, NRL, whatever it is, right? So as a sportsman, if you make the least amount of mistakes, you're going to have the most amount of success.
That is some good advice. And what about some terrible advice or the worst advice you ever received?
Well, I get bad advice every day. So.
Can you think of anyone that stands out?
I have a rule where I don't listen to uneducated people.
Yeah.
If I don't respect them, or if they're not in a certain position, or if they're not in a position to be able to give good advice, I don't listen to what they have to say.
That's fair. That is fair. Well, I think we've covered a lot of the racing and the jockey chat. Let's take you through a few of our segments. So we have a segment called This or That, which is pretty much Would You Rather. So
We've just ripped it.
We pretty much stole it. So you just got to choose which side you'd rather be on. So, This or That, win on a short price fave or a long odds roughie?
Short price fave.
Really?
The odds don't worry me. I don't bet. I'm not allowed to bet. I don't bet. So, if I ride horses at $1.20 and it wins, I'm happy.
You know that all the punters back in Australia are saluting in their multis.
Yeah. Putting drinks on the table. Second one, This or That, beauty generation or military attack?
Oh, geez, I'd say beauty because, he's a horse of the year. He was, he did great things here. He broke all the records at the time. Obviously, Golden 60 has come along since, but we had a phenomenal run together.
And speaking of military attack, did you enjoy your time riding the horse? Obviously, had great success, but how did it rank for you?
Yeah, no, it was great. It was up and down because at that time I sort of had a love-hate relationship with John Moore. Moreria as a 4-year-old, and wasn't quite up to them at that time. And then he come back the next season, and I remember I drew 14 out of 14 over the 1800 at Chartin, and the horse had been getting back in his races. And I said to John, I'd like to go forward and just try and get in somewhere. And I happened to roll forward, and no one else did, so I led, controlled the race, won by 2 or 3, and I come back in, and John was jumping up and down saying that's a George Moore type ride. I stuck with him and won a few Group 1 races. And then we got to the International Cup later the following year, and there was no speed in the race, but John had a couple of runners in the race, and I drew wide. And he said, just riding quiet, don't worry. He said, I think the speed will be okay, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So I went back, and they walked, and I run home. I got beat 3/4 of a length, and he said, you went too far back, blah. He sacked me.
I saw that.
I went from turning this average horse into an international Group 1 horse to get a sack because I followed his instructions.
Maybe that's the worst advice you ever received.
Terrible.
Yeah, maybe. And then I didn't ride for John for 2 years after that, and it was only until Beauty Generation come along, and the owners told him that I was riding the horse that I got back on it, and then obviously I started to win on him, so John started putting me on other horses, and then we had a phenomenal run towards the end of his career. I rode a heap of winners for him.
He's glad to have you back.
Just before we go into the next one, you mentioned Golden 60 before, Zach. Would you say he's the best horse in Hong Kong at the moment, Golden 60?
Oh, yeah, at the moment for sure, and he's been the best horse here for 3 seasons, and he quite possibly could be the best horse we have seen here as well. He's a unique horse in that he can quite often break 22 seconds for his last quarter. So if he sits out the back and you think you're in a slightly run race and you're going to out sprint him, he still catches you. But if you roll along at good speed, he catches you anyway. So he's very hard to beat.
Yeah, he's a gun. Also, next question. This or that, being caught 3 wide or being 3 back the fence?
Oh, it depends the rail position and the track ice and what you're following and who's in the race and all that sort of stuff. Oh, I don't mind being 3 wide with cover, to be honest. Especially when the rail's in certain positions here, because the fields can jam up, and you just seem to get caught up inside. So if you can just have the momentum and have that sweeping run like in Japan, they prefer that. When I was riding in Japan, I couldn't believe it. I'd go to the races and I'd be drawing barriers 1, 2, or 3, and they'd come and apologise for having a bad barrier. And I'm like,
really?
Oh, Jesus.
yeah, because they'd be worried about the horse getting caught on the inside. But you draw a 22, 23, 24, and they're like, oh, very good chance today. So their mindset is different.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, I don't mind being in amongst the ruck either. I like riding for luck and coming between horses and all that sort of stuff. I find that quite exciting. I enjoy doing that. But, it just depends on how the track is riding on the day.
Yeah, 100%. Last one, this or that, sprint or staying races?
Oh, see, we don't have too many staying races here. All our racing is sprint a miler sort of based. We have 3 races at 2,400 per season. So it's all sort of 2,000 low. So I'm going to have to say I'm in Hong Kong sprinting.
Yeah,
love it.
Speaking of staying races, the Melbourne Cup, it's obviously a goal of yours to win it. How do you see your chances of it ever coming about? Do you have to buy a ticket, budge some trainers? How?
I don't know how to do it. I've been trying to work that one out. But I felt like I was building towards winning it. Like the last 2 times I rode in it, I ran 3rd and 4th. So I was sort of getting there, and I thought it was just a matter now of finding the right horse. And I don't know. It's just hard when you're based here because I can't be on horses in the lead-ups down there, and then the Australian jockeys have the Australian horses sewn up, and then the Europeans like to take their jockeys down sometimes, and it's just to get the right horse. So I'd say really, really slim, but I would really, really like to win it.
Yeah. Do you get called upon much, Zac, for like the spring carnivals, the autumn carnivals here? Like, you've obviously haven't been here for a while, but do you get asked to come down? Or?
Yeah, well, due to COVID the last 3 years, I haven't been able to go anywhere, so I sort of put pay to that. But this spring carnival just gone, I did have some phone calls to go down, but I just wasn't comfortable with those horses, and didn't end up going. It's a long way to go if I don't think the horse is worth going for. So
we recently actually bought a share of a horse with Pulse Racing Thoroughbreds, and it's called Moreria Gorilla. So we want to know if you'd be happy to jump on board on a BM58 on a Wednesday at Kembla Grange.
Send the private jet on there.
Oh, too easy. Well, we'll give you a call. We're holding you to it. 1 private jet away. Just to finish off, because we are cautious of time, and we thank you so much for coming on. We've prepared a little quiz to see how well Zac Purton knows his racing career.
Jeez, here we go. I'm going to let myself...
Put the thinking cap on, as they say. Here we go. First question. What was the name of the first runner you ever rode?
Oh, was it Our Girl?
Yeah, it was. Well done. Yeah. All the way back then.
I wasn't sure if it was my first ride in a race or my first barrier trial. It might have actually been both. But she was like, 1,400 pound, really big mare, beautiful to ride.
Do you remember the year, the date, anything?
So someone told me the other day it was in 1999. I know I rode my first winner in May of 2000.
Yeah. Nailed it.
Second question. This is an easy one. We thought we'd give you one. What was your first Group 1 win?
Excites at Randwick for Guy Walter.
Yep.
Do you know the year?
Oh, so I was in Sydney, so it must have been 2006.
Yes.
Ding.
2 out of 2.
In the AJC Sires Produce Stakes. Do you remember much about your first Group 1, how you celebrated or anything like that?
I remember the race because I was back near last. Horse hit the fence at about the 600 or 800 metre mark and nearly went through it, and it skittled most of the runners in the field. And as they shifted out, I sucked through the inside, went to about 4th or 5th very quickly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, I got quite lucky. But, Yeah, I don't remember how I celebrated. No doubt back in those wild days, I would have celebrated well.
Well, it's probably telling that you don't remember
Yeah.
the celebrations. All right, number 3. What is the number of the most ever winners you have ridden in a season?
So that was here in Hong Kong, 168.
Bang. In what season?
Oh, shit. It wasn't too long ago. So, these would have been, hang on. I won last year. Joe was here.
Backtrack.
Three seasons ago.
Yeah, 2018
that's
and
the one.
2019 season.
Oh, you're on a roll. 3 out of 3 here. Which horse has the most prize money you've ever ridden?
I'd have to say Beauty Generation.
Yeah.
Oh, you're good.
Do you know how much Hong Kong dollars it won or Australian dollars?
Oh, I did look at this the other day.
We'll give you closest to 5 million.
Was it 130?
Less.
Bit less. It was 106
106 million.
mil.
Hong Kong dollars.
Okay, right.
18 wins in 34 starts. Wow.
Crazy.
And the final question, which should be recent to you, most wins at a single meeting in Sha Tin.
Yeah, 7. So that was a good day out.
7 wins out of 10. How? How does that happen apart from writing every short price fave on the card? As the other jockeys would say. Not me. Not us. Don't shoot us, Zach.
Yeah,
It's almost not fair, Zach.
We were on him, so we're happy.
I just make it look easy, don't I?
Yeah.
Oh, you're too
No,
good.
Looks
it
unfair.
was a good day, and there were 3 horses that run close that all could have won as well. So I could have had another couple of winners, and then it was only recently. I think I had 3 or 4 winners on the day and 3 or 4 seconds as well. So with a little bit of luck, I could have had another 7 that day. But I've had a lot of bad. Everyone's saying I'm crying poor, but I am. I've had a lot of bad barriers. So when the barriers come together, get in the right spots and the right run races,
Yeah.
I reckon I could probably ride another 6 or 7 in a day, hopefully coming up.
How's California Spangle going? You going well?
Yeah, he's going really well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So getting back on his back, dude that he is. And then obviously looking forward for what lies ahead for him. It's an exciting. So hopefully he can just take that next step. That's the exciting part. We'll see how we go.
And is this number 6, the 6th Hong Kong Premiership? Is this it, the season?
Yeah, we've got a long way to go. So you never put the cart before the horse. As long as I can stay fit and healthy and complete the season. Obviously, I was lucky to win the Premiership last season, having the fall and having the time off. I didn't think I'd be able to get up and do it, but I always had in my mind that I was going to win it like that. From the moment I hit the track and was in the ambulance, all I thought about was getting back out there to win that Premiership and put myself in that position. So I never gave up. But I just want to stay fit and healthy now. I've had a terrible injuries the last few years. It's been really, really difficult physically, mentally, having to get up every day, put myself through pain to compete. It's not easy, but no one forces me to do it. I do it. But I just want to stay fit and healthy and just try and run down the 170 winner mark this season. That's my goal. Try and set a new record.
Let's do it. And we'll be on every single horse of yours, no matter how short they are. From $1.10 to $17, whatever they are.
They won't be 17. How much longer do you reckon your career will go for in an ideal world? Like, how long would you want to be racing for?
Coming to the end of it for sure. I have the luxury of being able to call time on my career when I want to. I'm not going to have anyone else tell me when I need to retire. I don't have to ride for 5 or 10 more years like other jockeys might have to keep paying bills. I've had a successful career. I've done well, so I've been very fortunate. But like I've said previously, recently, I can't see myself riding in 2 years' time. So enjoy me while it lasts.
Zach, thanks very much for joining us on another episode of the Cast Patrol podcast. It's been amazing. So many stories shared, and we thank you so much for giving us the time of day.
Anytime. Thanks, guys, and keep up the good work.